Hello, it's Jo from Cranberry here. Today I am going to do a further demo as I did last week and also tell you about some exciting news. So firstly, I have to remind you that our offer during the expo is free express post shipping on orders over $100 on the website. So you've been keeping us pretty busy this week with those orders, and that will run until 6 p.m. tomorrow. That's Sunday. Okay, so do have a browse round, and we've got lots of things here. So I'm sure there's something that you need to stock up on. Okay, last week, if you tuned in to the live, I mentioned that I had something exciting coming up. And that is that Cranberry is going to launch a new club. And we're calling it the Cranberry Bead Weaving Club. And you join and pay month by month, and you can cancel anytime. But each month we will explore a theme of bead weaving. So whether it's a technique, or a style, or playing with different shapes, or a combination of all different things. So you get scope to follow exactly what we're doing, or I can encourage you to play and experiment and see what is possible. So this is for you if you have already started bead weaving and you find a few things a little challenging. Join us and we'll take you to the next level in your bead weaving. So that is pretty exciting. So the best way to get updates about this is if you join the Cranberry newsletter, and you can do this on the website. It's on the main page, or I will share a link how to join up to the newsletter. But I know many of you are already on the newsletter, and you will be the first to get the news about it. So we will open up the club for people to join towards the end of this month, and then we will kick off next month. Okay, so I'm really excited about it. It's been on my mind that I wanted to do something like this for a long time, because I hear people say things like, "Oh, I can't do that workshop. It's too advanced for me," and it might be. But the aim is for us to consolidate your skills, build on them, and so you will be able to do those advanced workshops. Or if there's a technique that scares you, maybe right angle weave. I hear a lot of beaders say, "Oh no, right angle weave, it's too hard for me. I can't do that." Okay, so you know who you are. I hear you say it. Another one is odd count peyote. Ooh, don't like that one. Or I don't like the way it's done. So there's always quite often more than one way to do things. Okay. So stay tuned in the newsletter for this, and we will have news sent out to you very shortly. Okay. So now I'm going to go on to do the demo. And last week I showed you how to do some flat peyote with beads that were not delicas. So delicas are the straight-sided cylinder beads, and they work perfectly for delicas. And I do a lot of flat peyote work in delicas. They just work lovely, but you don't have to. Okay, so I showed you doing it in some hex 8 size beads and some 1.8 millimeter cubes. And I said these flat bases would be good for embellishment. So that is what we're going to look at this week. I'm going to switch to my overhead camera. Hopefully I'm going to switch to my overhead camera. Here we are. So this is what I started doing last week. And these are the Miyuki small cubes. And when I did this, when I extended this during the week, because I just did a little bit in the demo last week, I purposely didn't cull the beads. So if you are going to use the cubed, I recommend that you do that, because if I zoom in here, you can see there's a little bulge on the edge, and it's probably one of these cubes isn't quite square and it's pushing it up. This is a good example here. I should have culled that bead there. It's got a little point on it and it's pushing it out. So I wanted to leave those imperfections in just to show you that it probably is better to pay a bit more attention with these. You don't really get this problem with delicas because, I mean, you do get the odd short one, so it's still worth looking at those. But if you compare it to delicas, it's much more even. Either way, they're both pretty good. So I'm going to take this one here and show you how we can make it a bit more interesting. So, I mean, it feels nice, it's lovely and smooth and slinky, but it's a little bit plain. So what have we got here? Right, should have threaded my needle. I've got one needle prepared, but not the other. So do hold on. And this is the moment when you can't thread your needle, isn't it? When you're under pressure on a live video. There we are. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is add some edging. And size 15 beads work well for this. So my thread is coming out of an edge bead here, and I am going to pick up 3 size 15s and go down the next cube. And that adds a little pico. That's just a nice finish. So to add the next one, got the next bead, pick up another 3 15s, go down the next bead. And that just looks really pretty on the edge. Now, if you do have any questions, pop them in the comments and I will get back to them later. I mean, I'm pretty good at multitasking, but I can't bead and read comments and reply to them as well. So you get the idea. You just pick up 3 beads, down 1, and then up 1. I'll just do one more. And the spacing works quite well on these cubes. If you were doing it on the edge of a delica, they might be a little bit too crowded, or they might just stand up a little bit more. But, maybe I'll show you that later. I don't want to thread another needle right this moment. So that's one sort of embellishment. Now, the next thing I want to do is add something along the surface. Now, I've collected a few beads that may work, and I'm going to just ad hocly add them and see what happens. Just take you through a bit of my design process here. So I've got a few things. So, I mean, the colors aren't always matching great when you're doing a demo, but just run with it. So we've got these gem duos, these diamonds, which might be quite nice. We could put them across this way, or here. Because this is even count, 6 beads across the base, we don't have a center line to put them on. So in that case, you could always put them off to one side like this, and another one over here. So let's go for it. So I'm coming out of one bead in. Now, do I need a size 15 to help it sit? I am just going to sew through it and see what it looks like. That looks pretty good, actually. So I am going to go in the next bead here. And there we are. The thread on this is a pretty good match for the base, and it just disappears. Yeah, you can't really see it on the side. Let me just adjust the camera to get it slightly more in focus. There we are. So this is a 2-hole bead, and I need to weave through so I can secure the other end down. And you probably need to come out of that. Where do I need to come out? Probably this bead. So it's a matter of just placing them down and seeing what works. Go through this bead. There we are. So what I would do is probably go through that thread path again to secure it and make it firmly held in place. Okay, but I'm not going to do that now. But so I feel like that sort of offset pattern with these would work quite well. Yeah, you could zigzag them up and down. That would be quite a nice pattern. What I'm going to do is start a new thread, and I on purpose didn't join in the new thread before I started this, because I thought it would be a good example of how to start a new thread. And I've got several ways of starting a new thread, but one of my original and favorite ways is to simply weave it in, not knot. But so this is, you know, just the piece that we've been working on. I will go in, weave through, leave a shortish tail because I'm actually going to cut the tail off. And you notice I didn't go in from the edge. I went one bead in, so that when you do cut that tail, you won't get a fuzzy bit on the edge, and it will just sit between the beads. Okay, so people sometimes want to know, how do you know when you've woven in enough? And the answer to that is you won't be able to pull it through. So now I've doubled back, it still moves, but there's a lot more resistance. So I'm going to do it a couple more times, and then it will probably be secure. It doesn't really matter where you go in this sort of stitch. Right, now if I pull, I can't pull it through now. So then I get the scissors, and I cut this off, any last little bit of the thread just disappears in there. Okay, so now we're ready to add another embellishment. Now, What have we got here? These would be quite nice, I think. These are also 2-hole cabochons, and that color goes really nicely on this because there's goldy tones in the background. We've got a purple one as well. I don't know. I think I'd just stick with gold and put them all down the middle. So that would be quite nice. Also, I've got these tile beads, 2-hole tiles. The 2-hole beads are pretty good for adding on top of things because having 2 holes, you can secure them on both sides, yeah, so it doesn't flip up. So that would be quite good. Put those down the middle. Or I've got these ginkgo beads. Now, these could be interesting. You could put them all lined up down the center like that. Space them out. You just need to count the beads along so you get even spacing on them. Yeah, you probably need to do them like 6 beads, 6 of the cube beads apart. And that would probably work. Or you could put them facing each other. Or if you had a slightly wider piece of peyote, I don't think you can really fit them on. This is a bit too narrow, but you could have them in this sort of shape. Yeah. You know, I'm not going to fit them to exactly the right shape. They're too fiddly to move around, but you know, that's sort of a nice flower arrangement. Now, another option would be something like an O bead. Now, this would be attached in a slightly different way. I'll attach this one to show you. So I'm coming out of the middle. So you go up through this bead. Find a random seed bead. No, I'll use one of these size 15s, should be okay. So bring it all down. And so I've got the O bead, the size 15. I'll go back through the O bead. And then back into the beadwork. And then when you pull it all firmly together, and don't get it stuck around the corner, there, sits like a little cute little bump on there. So of course you could do a combination of things here. You could have these, so I'll just weave along so I've got a bit more space to add another one. So I'm going to add one of these 2-hole cabochons. And if I look at the hole spacing, I think, yeah, it sort of will sit on that join quite nicely. So if I go through this side, and then lay it down, and then I'll probably go 2 beads. I mean, the best thing to do is if you're not sure, just try, yeah. If it doesn't work out, you can reverse bead and unpick it. Okay. So it's sitting slightly off center. So I'm going to move over 1 more bead. And then when I go through the second hole, hopefully it will pull it into line. There we are. And then just choose which bead to go into. I'm going to go into this one and then right to the edge. There we are. So that's quite fun. I sort of like that effect of the little O bead with the 15 and then next to it with the 2-hole cabochon. And then finish the gold edging all the way long. I think that would look really nice. So I'm going to carry on, and when you're embellishing, don't be afraid to weave back and forth to where you need to go. If you can, weave through a few beads at a time. Gets you where you want to be quicker. If we move up to this end. And this is where the spacing gets tricky. So I'll probably need to be, I'm going to add another one of these. I need to be one more bead over maybe. So if you have got lots of odds and ends of beads, like I have got millions of odds and ends, because, you know, I mean, I know I've got a bead shop, so I've got millions of odds and ends, but just, you know, like this packet, just a few O beads left in it. And then these 2-hole cabochons, there's just some odds and ends, yeah? So these sort of embellishment projects are great for this sort of thing. You get to use up your stash. So there we are. I think the spacing looks pretty good on that. Looks sort of even. Yep. So I would love to see if you've got some ideas about embellishments as well. I mean, they don't have to be equally spaced. If you were embellishing around a cabochon or something like that, say you'd embroidered around a cabochon and you wanted to add some embellishments, you could add a cluster on one corner. I think I might even have an example of that I might find for you tomorrow. And you can use lots of small beads, and odds and ends of flowers work really well. The center hole flowers especially, you can use them like these O beads, come up through them, put a bead, or you can put 3 beads to make a picot in the center of the flower and then go back down. Okay, so your embellishments don't have to be evenly spaced like this. They can be however you want them. No rules, just experiment and see what you come up with. It's a bit of fun, and it's an excellent way of using up your odds and ends. Okay, so I'm going to finish up there. My half an hour is nearly up, and remind you that the free shipping on the website ends Sunday, tomorrow at 6 p.m. So do make sure that you get your orders in by then, and sign up for the newsletter, because we will be telling you all about the Cranberry Bead Weaving Club very soon. Okay, thank you for watching. If you have any comments, I will get to them later, and I will also check back again later, because I know many of you are in workshops right now, and I was in a workshop this morning with Glenda, and that was a lot of fun. So yeah, everybody is busy beading, producing lots of fun things. So I know many of you will be watching this later, but hopefully you're watching it before the weekend is out, so you don't miss the reminder of the free express post shipping. That's for orders over $100. Okay, so thank you for watching, and I will see you again tomorrow, Sunday, again at 1 p.m. And I've got some ideas for tomorrow, but I'm just gonna keep that to myself, and you'll have to come along to see what I do. Okay, thank you and goodbye.